Shubhi, you can unmute and you can start with the presentation.
Is my screen visible, sir?
Not yet. Okay. Yeah, it's visible.
So, good morning, sir. If at any point of time my voice does not match the commands on the screen, do interrupt, please.
Okay.
Good evening, sir. Today is my presentation on the topic of reading data from the Bank of Baroda CSV file and then plotting the candlestick pattern of the very same in Python. So the contents of today's presentation are: first is the agenda, followed by the introduction. Then we will learn what is a CSV file, then candlestick chart, followed by code implementation, and then conclusion. So what is the purpose of this project? The aim of this project is to plot a candlestick chart for a Bank of Baroda stock market CSV file. So this mentioned CSV file contains historical stock market data of the share of Bank of Baroda. The candlestick chart offers a visual and intuitive representation of price movements, which helps in trend identification, market sentiment assessment, and very precise entry and exit point determination for traders. For example, it may let know the traders that when to enter the particular share or exit the particular share for maximum profit, which enhances their decision-making power and accuracy. Now we will just have a small idea of what are the terms which we are going to use throughout the presentation. First is Bank of Baroda. So it is an Indian multinational banking and financial services company. It is one of the largest public sector bank in India, and we will use the stock market data of this particular bank in this project. Then what is the candlestick chart? So it is a visual representation of assets price movement. So one can say that if we have a share market, their price movement can be determined by candlestick chart. With the candlestick chart displays an open, high, low, and close prices for a specific period. That helps the traders analyze the trend and make informed decisions. Now, what is a CSV file? It is an abbreviation for comma separated value file, which is a plain text format used to store tabular data with fields separated by a comma. Now let us understand what is a CSV file first. So a CSV file is a plain text file which is used for storing structured data, where each line represents a record one can see in the image itself, and then the values within each line are separated by the comma. So a CSV file is used for data set, which is known to every one of us present, but there are various reasons why we use it. One of the first reason is simplicity. So CSV files are plain text and easy to create and understand, which makes them accessible across a wide range of users, including those who don't have any advanced technical skill. The second reason is compatibility. So CSV is widely supported format, and all the spreadsheet softwares or database management systems all support the CSV, writing CSV and reading CSV formats. The example for compatibility is itself that Java, for example, Java is a very popular programming language. Why it is so? Because it has the bytecode, it is highly compatible. So one can understand the reason why compatibility matters the most. The third reason is flexibility. So the CSV file represents a wide range of data structures, from simple tables to more complex data sets with multiple tables and much more. Then space efficiency. So for CSV files are relatively compact, which is beneficial for storage and transmission, especially when dealing with large data sets. So we all know that what if we have a particular code of program, that we have particular logic code, then in general case, the code which takes the least amount of space and least amount of time is considered the best code. So same applies here also. If we have space efficiency, it is considered best. There are various other methods through which the data set can be stored, for example, SQL data set and Excel spreadsheets, but CSV is considered the most and largely used and most efficient one. Then what is a candlestick chart? A candlestick chart is a type of financial chart used to represent the price movement of an asset, such as a stock, currency, or commodity, over a specific period of time. Now, the point to be noted here is that specific period of time does not mean that it has a particular time period. It is just, it can be even 1 hour, 1 day, 1 year, or anything. It's just a time period. Then it provides a visual representation of open, high, low, and close prices for each period. So each candlestick on the chart represents one period, and that can be anything. Now, how to read a typical candlestick? So the candlestick is divided into two. One can see body and a wick. So this is known as body, and the above stick and the lower stick is known as wick. So what is a body? The rectangular part of this candlestick is known as the body. It represents the price range between the opening and the closing price of the asset for a particular period. One can see this is the closing price, this is the opening price. Now we will understand both of these candlesticks. One is filled with black, one is filled and one is empty. Now why is that so? Let us understand. So if the closing price is higher than the opening price, the body is filled green, indicating a bullish period. So one can see that my closing price in the second one, the closing price is higher than the opening price, which gives us a green colored, or just if we have a black and white scheme, it just shows a empty body, which represents a bearish bullish period. Whereas if the opening price is higher than the closing price, the body is left unfilled or red colored, indicating a bearish period. So this is, we understand, this is the highest price for that period which we are evaluating. This is the lowest price. This is the opening price, and this is the closing price. Opening price is the price on which the stock is opened in that particular period. The closing price is the one in which the stock closes in that particular period. The high and low prices in that particular period is that the highest price it hit in that period and the lowest price. Then what is the wick? A wick is the shadow, the extending lines one can see here and here, which represents the highest and lowest price reached during that period, represents the wick. Now, just to understand this only itself better in color, because colors are really easy to understand, let us understand it in this colorful format. So this is a bullish candlestick, which is represented in green color, where the opening price is here, the closing price is here. The highest price is shown here and the lowest price is shown here, which simply means that the closing price was higher than the opening price. For example, if my stock opens at 70 rupees, it closed at 75 rupees. And this high and low can be represented as that the highest price it reached was 79 rupees and the lowest price might be 68 rupees. Similarly, for a decreasing candlestick, bearish candlestick, this is a opening price which is at a higher level, whereas the closing price is at the lower level, indicating a fall in the price. And this is itself high and low. Now there are various patterns in candlestick graph. For one to become a good trader, for having maximum profit, one has to understand all the patterns. There are various types of patterns. But for us, just to ensure that we plot it, there is no need to understand each and every pattern, but still just to have an example that how these patterns are formed, let us understand a simple one in this picture. So there are two types of, just for example, I have taken two patterns, which is named by 3 white soldiers and 3 black crows. So what is 3 white soldiers? So 3 white soldiers is defined as that if there are 3 green candlesticks, three corresponding green candlesticks, as one can see 1, 2, and 3. These indicate that the stock is currently having a good profit, and if a trader really wants to invest, he must invest in this time period so as to ensure his maximum profits. Now, similarly, there are 3 black crows also. This pattern is characteristic by 3 bearish red ones, the 3 bearish candles, 3 red candles, which indicate that the trader must now take his exit from that particular stock so as to ensure that he does not have to bear any further losses. Now, please pay attention that this is candlestick chart. At the same time, this is known as OHLC chart. Now, OHLC is an abbreviation for open, high, low, and close. Now, difference between candlestick and OHLC graph is that the candlestick is having a complete body, whereas the OHLC graph is shown by the stick. The process is same. This is open, this is closed, this is high, this is low. But here the sticks are used to represent a particular period, whereas here a complete body is used. Now we will see the code. Is my screen visible, sir?
Yeah, it's visible.
So now let us understand the code line by line. The first is to import the pandas, then the MPL finance, which is a a module built on matplotlib, which helps us to plot the candlestick charts and OHLC charts. Then matplot inline is also used so as to ensure that the charts which I am plotting are plotted in the output itself and no separate screen is used for the very same process. Then I have read the file which was provided to me by the Hackveda itself. Then I have printed the data, and here I can see what are the columns. There is one unnamed column followed by the date, open, high, close, low, and volume. So date is very well known that it is representing the date and time, followed by open, the price at which the stock opened up. The high price it reached throughout that specific period of time. Then low price, followed by the closing price, and the volume represents the number of stocks which are being traded in that particular period and that time. Then the information of this data is that I have taken out that what are the data types, what is their count, how many, where we came to know that they have 1,726 rows and 7 columns. So how many values are there? What is the type of that value? Then I have calculated that if there is any null value, because I don't want to deal with any noise in the data set, so as to ensure that my charts are really understandable and they actually provide insights in the data. I ensure that there is no noise and there are no null values. So I will proceed further. I have just checked up what are the columns, which is unnamed data, open, high, close, and volume. Now, if we see the data set here, one can notice that unnamed column is just the numbering of the rows. It has no significance throughout the work which we are doing throughout the project. It has no significance. It's just the labeling of first row, second row, and so on. So I will drop the particular column so as to ensure that the data set gets a little bit compact and does not remain as large as it is. Then I have changed up this. One can see here, this is a date is an object. Now I have to change this date to date time. Now what is date time? Date time is the function which makes the date, which makes the month, year, and date followed by time in one segment itself. It just combines all these segments and makes it as a single column, which helps us to work on the date column very efficiently. So I've converted it into date time, and here one can see that it is converted into date time from the object itself. Now, on the first go, the index was set on this. This bold one is known as the index of the pandas, which it has set to ensure that it plots the graph according to this numbering, numeric data. Now, I have to plot the data using the date. For me, date holds much more significance, date and time. So I will set the index as date. I have set the index at date, and then I have again printed up the data. Now one can see the date is in bold and it is set as an index. Then I have plotted the data. Now one can see this is looking like a line graph from the naked eye. One can see if not at a single instant, it is looking like a line graph, but it is actually not a line graph. It is a OHLC graph. It is a OHLC graph. Now, why it is looking like a line graph, I will explain further. I have taken out a particular segment from this graph, and then I have plotted the very same by zooming it up, and now one can see that it is the OHLC graph. As I have mentioned that there are lines and there are open, high, close. A particular pattern from this chart is followed up here. So this is an OHLC graph. The primary reason for this that it is looking like a line graph is the amount of data. We are having the amount of data very large. It is 1,726 rows, which is a really large amount of data for one to plot. That is why it is looking like a line graph. But if we zoom in further, we get to see that yes, it has plotted up OHLC graph. Now the same data which I have plotted here, to show that it is not a line graph, I have plotted the same data using line to show that the line graph is a different one. The same data I have plotted using the line graph. This is the line corresponding which I have shown the volume, that which were the volumes which were being traded throughout this period. Now, for the particular instant, I have plotted the same OHLC using with the volume, along with the volume, and then I have just plotted the candlestick type, which was my given task. Now here the problem arises that the candlestick is also looking like a line graph. Because of the amount of data, it is looking like a line graph. So I have zoomed in further for a particular date, and this is showing that it is actually plotted as a candlestick graph where there is green, reds, and everything, but it is shown in black and white scheme. So we have completely unfilled bodies and filled bodies along with the volume. This is for a particular date. This date, it is showing up at different time instance, because if I was plotting it as complete whole, it was not showing any valuable insight into the data. I won't be able to predict that whether the market is bearish or bullish, nothing. But if I plotted it on daily basis, it has shown me some valuable insights. Then I have plotted the complete data with a tight layout. One can see that line graph and the candlestick type both are linked together, along with the volume of the complete data. Here is the complete data. Then I have plotted the same graph, the above graph, this graph. I have plotted the same graph using a different color scheme, which is known as Yahoo color scheme. In this graph, one can see that there are red and green lines. Red and green, some lines are being shown, which surely indicate us that yes, there is something being plotted where there are profits and loss, or bullish or bearish, along with the volume. Then I have plotted the same data which I was plotting up here with one can see that I have plotted up here on daily basis so as to ensure that I get an insight. Then I have plotted the same data of insight using the different color scheme. Now it is very much visible and it is good to use. Now I can gain insights from this data that yes, this is a green candlestick, this is a red candlestick, here there are loss, here there is profit and everything. But now the conclusion in this code is that if the amount of data is high, one cannot gain insight. But this is not the way. There must be surely some other way of code so as to ensure that the complete data gets a candlestick plot, not just a single one. So let us jump into another way of code, which will definitely give me insights. So here I have used a different way of code because one piece of code cannot work for every type of data. So here I've installed the MPL Finance, followed by importing all the required libraries. And then I have just checked up the head, imported the data, then labeling the first four, the last four, then setting the index as date, and then having the same different piece of code so as to ensure that I have a candlestick chart of the same given CSV file. So now I have the complete set of the data, and this is all the candlestick, but still the conclusion from here lies the same, that the amount of data is really, really high. And if one has to really gain an insight into this, then one has to really work in blocks. Moving back to the presentation. So what is the conclusion? That plotting a CSV data on a candlestick chart surely offers a powerful tool for visualizing price movements. It provides a clear representation of open, high, low, and close prices over time, which helps in trend identification, pattern recognition, and decision making for traders. Additionally, the simplicity and widespread compatibility of CSV file makes this approach accessible and practical for a broad range of users in financial analysis and trading. While the candlestick chart are surely a valuable tool in technical analysis, they also have some limitations. The very first limitation is false signals. So candlestick patterns can generate false signals, leading to incorrect decisions. For example, it might show that one has to not invest while there must be some capacity or capability for some user to invest in the very same. He might feel that, yes, I can invest in the stock market. It is showing some potential to growth, while the candlestick chart might show some false signals that one should not invest in this. Second, the emotion and human bias. The trader's emotion and bias can influence the interpretation of candlestick pattern. So for example, for one, if there is some pattern, he follows a particular pattern that if I see 4 green candles, then it is a pure win-win condition. While for someone, if he sees 5 green candles, it might be a win situation. Also, the candlestick charts cannot predict human bias and some conditions going throughout the market, some news or some social media articles which can influence the price. The candlestick chart cannot plot, some cannot make that predictions. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can ask right now.
Shubhi, I do have a question. Can you tell me the reason why it generates false signals?
Sir, it generates false signals because it is working on the past data.
Okay.
And past data, when one is working on the past data, he is just making a prediction.
Right.
He is just giving in prediction that yes, this might happen, but it might not always be the case. For example, if a company is going down so as to ensure that it makes leaps and bounds in the next quarter, and the traders know that the company is going to rise in leaps and bounds in the next quarter, but the candlestick chart might still show that no, it is not the correct time to invest. The company is going in loss. It might not get to know that, yes, there is something behind this.
Right, right. And you also mentioned that we need to use some kind of indicators for confirmation. So what kind of indicators are we talking about just to avoid those false signals?
Sir, the indicators I'm talking about is the RSI, Relative Strength Index, also
Okay.
at the same time moving averages.
Okay.
So these are different types of index which one must use to ensure that he invests correctly, not just the candlestick chart.
Right, right. Okay. I do not have any other questions.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
So here are the references from which I have taken the help, and that's it. Here I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Shubhi, the demonstration was well done. I have no issues over there, but I do feel like that you could have, done better with your presentation. I felt like the design, the effort that you put into, making the presentation more appealing, it just wasn't there this time. So I feel like you can do better with, the slides and the images that you show up, and you can select better templates. Other
Yes.
than that, it was good. I have no problems over there. Another thing. Okay. Everything else was fine. No other issues. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You
Thank
can,
you.
yeah, you can stop sharing your screen, and I don't think there is anybody else today, so you can leave the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So with this, I'll be concluding today's meeting. Thank you everybody for joining in.